I just gave you permission.
So I'll call the meeting to order. And first on our agenda is approval minutes of June 16th. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes of June 16th.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So then, additions to the agenda, I have one, and that's Japanese knotweed. So is there, are there any other? So is there a second to adding Japanese knotweed to our
I second.
agenda? Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Next public comment. Are there any public comments? Okay, hearing none, we go.
Yes, I have something. I'm sorry. May I speak?
Sure, Joanne, hello.
Thank you. I was just wondering, the West Cornwall Septic Committee, we haven't been meeting, but I heard that the Farnsworth House is not going to be rebuilt. And could we have Steve look at placing the septic, what the cost would be of placing the septic system if the town bought that property up there? I know we looked at it as a possible location. You know, if it's just going to go to rack and ruin.
Yeah, that's an idea.
So
Yeah,
we could at least
yeah, we'll get into that.
a cost estimate of what it would be to put it there, and that would deal with the concerns of people who, you know, don't want it right in the center of town, and also take advantage of the $100,000+ we used to repair that little bridge, make it really useful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea.
All right. Any other public comments?
I have one other issue. I did not get my tax bill. And when I spoke with Jean Boudelier, she spoke about the problems of, you know, their outdated computers and things, which I understand now being remedied. It's being ordered, but of course, it's got to wait 2 weeks before they get it. And I was wondering if the town might undertake evaluation of all of their computers, because they're pretty old, and rather than waiting till they break or that the state institutes a system that our computers won't handle, maybe we could do an analysis of that and put an infrastructure plan forward for updating all the town computers.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I know we do have a professional who does advise us on that, so we can ask him to review all those. I know we have replaced some of them recently, so. Okay, any other public comments? All those in favor? Oh, no vote. Next, communications. We did hear from town's insurance agency today that CIRMA, the Connecticut Local Risk Management Agency, did have a good year, and so they are redistributing money back to their policyholders, so the town will get a $3,000 rebate on its insurance, which is always good news to have that happen. Not so good news, but somewhat expected, is the Little Guild said today they are canceling their 5K run because of COVID concerns, and so that will be going on, or won't be going on. So they hope to get it going next year. So then, and also I did talk to Jim Terrell, and we'll talk about this later. He is going to work on some proposals to upgrade some of the buildings that are in need of upgrade. We should have that in the next couple of weeks. So moving right into the first item, we have COVID coronavirus update. Again, the town continues to do well. Unfortunately, we're a bright spot in what seems to be a tough situation with, I believe now it's up to 40 states are seeing increased cases. So that has led the governor to announce that he's postponing his phase 3 reopening, which mostly pertains to bars and types of optional recreation. So they are slowing things down somewhat on the reopening. On the plus side, for the first time since the spring, I believe Litchfield County has no hospitalizations for COVID-19, which is, again, very rare. The concern is as people move and as places all over the country become increasingly contagious, that zero won't probably last very long. But again, we are in a much better place. And again, thanks to everybody that has been working statewide, region-wide, nationwide to encourage measures that will curtail the virus. But I think we still have a long way to go. I forgot what Dr. Fauci's latest exact quote was, but basically we're still, we're still in the middle of the first wave. And it looks like it's going back up. So again, we have to remain vigilant, and everybody has to do their part. But overall, things are running as smooth as they can. I know the beach has been open, and I think they had a fairly busy weekend. We reached a capacity, but that seemed like people left before we had to have people not go, or again, everything seemed to work itself out. But there is a capacity that we can accommodate there. I guess my biggest concern now is knowing that people are recreating. It seems like people lose their common sense when they recreate, and I know there has been a large influx of people going up to the Great Falls and Falls Village, which is now closed. And again, I have talked to people at HVA who are monitoring the river, working with DEP, and they are going to have people there encouraging social distancing, wearing a mask, river safety, all those good things. So there are people out there watching things, because people do want to cool off, especially as we're also about to get a heat emergency this week. So again, it's very much a fairly fluid situation, as a lot of places are closed. I know there is an interest in trying to get Kent Falls opened again, but there is a conflict between trying to keep people safe and have adequate recreation facilities. So that's sort of where we're at. Anything from the board on all that? And again, our emergency group continues to meet weekly, address issues from social service to emergency service, as well as what the state's doing and advice they can give municipalities on how do we deal with these issues. So that is it for now on the coronavirus update. Next on our agenda is asphalt bids. We received back, I believe it was 4 bids last week for paving up on Cream Hill Road. And we were pleased to get a good response to our bidding process. And is Jim there? Jim joined us?
Yeah, I'm here, Gordon.
Oh, good. Hey, Jim. So, so we got 4 bids, and Jim has looked at them all. And do you have any recommendation for us, Jim?
Currently, I'm I'm looking at all my results on the paper and all my figures and whatnot, and Metcalf Paving, our low bidder, I like the price that he came in at. I don't know if you recall, I'm pretty sure I gave these figures to you of my estimations of what it would come in at: $90 a ton, $95 a ton, or $100 a ton in place. And I usually add $10,000 to that figure for reclaiming and grading.
Yeah.
So with Metcalf coming in, I believe they're at $90 a ton in place at 103. Add the $10,000 for the reclaiming and grading, and that puts us at 113. So they're spot on with what I had expected.
Great. And we've used them before, and again, some of the other vendors we've also used and things. So it just it just every year it seems like it works out somewhat differently depending on what people's work schedules are. But these are all qualified contractors. So then, and we have money to do this in next year's. We're also, now we're in the new fiscal year as of July 1st. So we're set with that. We estimated about $150,000 for paving for the year. We will do some other spots, which we've already, started in various places. But this is the big project for the summer. So you think we should go with Metcalf then, Jim?
I absolutely do. We've had great luck with them in the past.
Good. All right. Well, then I will make a motion that the board accepts Metcalf Paving's bid of $113,500 on the recommendation of our highway friend Jim Bannicky. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Do we have any dates when we think this is going to happen, Jim? No.
I did contact Ben Metcalf, and he was going to let his estimator know that we wanted a timeline.
Yeah.
But then we had 4th of July weekend, so I think I should probably, once they find out the results of tonight, I should probably have an answer for you within the next day or two.
Good. Yeah, because we'd like, especially if it's going to happen in August, we want to let people know that might be a little bit of a traffic issue. Yeah, great. So any other discussion?
No.
All right. So anyway, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Good. All right. Well, thank you, Jim, for pulling those figures together and working with contractors to get us a good competitive process and price.
Okay, thanks, Gordon.
Okay, thanks. So next is our Board of Selectmen goals 2020. I thought it would be good as we are starting the new fiscal year, and things have sort of gone along. We certainly were thrown a big curveball and some new responsibilities with the COVID pandemic crisis and all the issues that have come up with that. But it seems at this point, and again, because we're sort of halfway through the year, start of the fiscal year, I thought it'd be good just to look at where we're at this point, knowing that we are still in a state of emergency. But I did send out the goals that we adopted last fall. I think it was November, December. And I thought it would be good just to go through things because, again, even in a time of emergency, it's important to know what you really want to be doing, and get things accomplished. So just going down through things, we didn't have a housing forum with the Cornwall Housing Corporation for obvious reasons that public gatherings have been restricted. But that being said, I think people are more comfortable now with online meetings and things, so it may be possible to pull some housing initiatives together.
Yeah, I would love to get some momentum behind that. I think, looking on the bright sides of COVID, if there is one, if you can even say that, but we see a lot of people who can afford houses in the area buying them, and I think there are also people who can't afford some houses that would like to be in this area, and I don't know, I think it's a good time to really focus on that.
Yeah, agree. I mean, I think one thing, as Priscilla said in her intro of the meeting, I mean, the real estate market's hot. The Cornwall sales figures, I think, have increased more year to year than any other town in the region. The price increase has been substantial here, average price, and of course that depends on what's for sale. But this is, we are the most sparsely populated town in the state, and I think sparse is good these days. Good to be sparse, but I totally agree with Marina that in some ways it's made any house is selling quicker now. So there's very few bargains out there.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is I don't know if I forwarded you it all, because I sent it off to the planning and zoning, because I have been sitting in on their email or their Zoom meetings on redoing the down to the next thing, the revision of the regulations part of the new town plan. So they are doing a top to bottom revision of the town plan, incorporating a lot of the ideas that were in the 10-year plan all at once, as opposed to do one this year, one next year, 3 next year, whatever. So just to make things more consistent, and I'll get back to the housing thing in a minute, but I think that's really important because we've have a new planner who's been working on this, and they said there are internal inconsistencies in the zoning regulations, such things as as they're written now, a hospital or nursing home can occur anywhere in town, but a doctor's office can't. So obviously one is much likely to be suited here, or a physical therapist, or you name it. Right now, people in Cornwall have to leave town to get essential professional services. It's unlikely a hospital would ever get built here. But why not allow things that would actually be useful to people? And again, housing choice, more rental income, more rental opportunities is high on the list of things to do. And what's also playing into this is legislature is coming. I just got a thing today. The legislature is coming back into session. And one of the things that they are addressing, in addition to issues of absentee ballots, how is the fall election going to work? And there are things about policing. It's on their agenda. They're also looking at housing affordability as the third, one of the 3 things they're talking about. And they are looking at the lack of rental housing, the lack of multifamily housing in many towns in the state. And that's just because that's the way the regulations are written. So, and they're talking about changing the laws to require you to have more rental housing or more multifamily housing if you're in Connecticut. So anyway, we don't like state mandate, but it's important to know that we're not the only ones thinking that this is an important thing to do. So I have talked to Maggie Cooley, and there are some things I think we can pull together. And even if it's a virtual symposium, there are some programs I think we can work towards. And some of that is planning and zoning, revision of the regulations, making it so people can cut off an extra lot without going through all the regulatory hurdles. If it's an affordable lot, that's something that's fairly easy to accomplish. And as well as making it make it easier to do accessory apartments and smaller houses on smaller lots, that kind of thing. So they are looking at all those things. And I think, but again, having some sort of forum that works, that is geared towards that now, maybe in the fall, and maybe virtual as opposed to a big meeting, might be the way we go on that. But again, I've been talking to people, and it seems like we could pull something together on that. Any other thoughts on housing as something to keep on track? Keep track of. Okay.
I'd like to see more on rental, affordable rental housing, possibly town-sponsored like Cougarman Village, but different
Right.
areas. I think I hear a need from local people for reasonably priced rentals, and I have nothing to offer these people.
Right. And what's interesting now too is the rules have changed since the days of Cougarman Village was built, that you can now mix in market rate housing with affordable rentals. So you can have a mixed use development. So it doesn't have to be all affordable, but there's a need for market rate and affordable rentals. So I think it would be good. And again, you can make them smaller scale, like they did up in Norfolk. You know, it takes time, but again, to keep pushing away. And I think it's again, now that we have, my overall feeling is now that we're sort of adjusted to our new reality. The COVID emergency may last with us for a considerable period of time. It could easily last throughout 2020. It could last into 2021. But again, some of these issues are here and now. And again, I have been talking to Steve McDonald, trying to get information about the USDA grant proposal. And it's my feeling, if we can get a number from them, then we're pretty close to being able, I think, to make a town decision on the down to the wastewater issue. I think most of the information has been gathered. There are things, and certainly Joanne's idea about looking at that other site, another site would be interesting. But I don't, you know, and again, we'd have to go through something and see how does the town make a big decision in under the COVID restrictions. We are again going to have to work out voting for, we have a presidential primary, which is sort of a bit of an exercise, as I think the winners of those are pretty well, I mean, I can pretty well guess who's going to win, who are going to be the nominees on that, and who's going to win in Connecticut. I think, personally, I think the whole thing's a bit of a waste of money and resources, but if nothing else, it does gives people, not just the voters, but also the election officials, a dry run on how do you work with all this. There will be in-person voting allowed on the presidential primary on August 11th, which I think is important, but also we have to make sure, you know, it's that inside close proximity thing that's where people are getting into trouble. So we have to make sure we do this as safe as possible. And I would certainly am encouraging the state officials to allow for as much absentee voting as possible. I don't think it's fair to people to possibly have to risk their health in order to vote. But that's just my opinion, and the state will, through their deliberate process, will decide what the rules are. And that's one thing that will come up in the special session of the legislature is supposed to happen the end of this month. So again, we'll have to get, you know, legal guidance and of what is the best setup to do town meetings, information meetings, kind of things. But it could also be, in my thinking, this could get worse in the winter again, maybe another flare up as people go inside. So it might make sense to have a deliberative process on the West Cornwall issue that we're pretty far along with in the fall. Just throw that out there. I'm sort of in a different mindset that I was in the spring for two reasons. One, we're sort of have done a good job in Connecticut. You know, West Cornwall hasn't gotten any better due to COVID. There's still, I've been talking to people, the Farnsworth included, with the bookstore, people at the Pink House, Ian, who's bought the old Lush building, all those people that are trying to revitalize West Cornwall are still hung up with the lack of wastewater treatment. So, and I think people are still interested in seeing the little village come back to life. So anyway, I think that should stay on our calendar. And again, the big issue is the USDA, but we should hear this summer on what they feel would be an approximate grant for that. So the thought is, if we can get a number this summer, we would have some sort of information meetings and some sort of decision-making process in the fall, ahead of our national election. I wouldn't propose we'd vote on this the same day as our national election. So anyway, those are just thoughts, but again, I think it's important for us to think about these things. What are our possibilities? What's the best time to do these? And again, any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's a good idea to pick back up. I think it's an appropriate time now that we can sort of live within the limitations of COVID and, you know, do things safely. And if we can do something that's accessible to everybody, then I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think also if you look at our goals, improved communication, certainly there has been probably more communication between the board and people in town in the last 6 months than we've had previously in various formats. So I think we've met the second goal as far as having more, you know, a remote information flow. It's not in person as much, but certainly there's a lot of electronic communication going out and coming back in. And I think we have pretty much all boards and people in their own businesses are used to doing remote meetings and things. I did talk to someone, the first selectman, that had 250 people at a town meeting on Zoom. Interesting. I know I think the town of Washington did have, no, it wasn't, it was somewhere, Woodbury or someplace. They had 100 people come and vote in person for a school board vacancy. So that was a town meeting type thing. Everybody was socially distanced. Protective measures were done. So there are, you know, at some point, and again, we have our annual town meeting in October. So how do we conduct business that's not our budget? Again, we're the town meeting form of government. How do we make decisions in this situation? So something we'll have to work on. One other good remote effort that's going on is the community group that's looking into improving access to the internet. I sat in on their meeting last week. You know, there's people with different viewpoints and asking a bunch of different questions, a lot of practical ideas, a lot of investigation going on. So again, they're looking at what some other towns are doing, what some other regions, how they've done it, what possible providers could be. So again, I think that's a pretty good effort that's will come back to the selectmen at some point. Probably this fall with some ideas of what the best way to go is, but I think they're looking at everything. One thing I did want to follow up on was we did hear, it's not the internet, but we did get an application from an application from the Siting Council about the Bell Road Tower that I think it's Verizon is looking to put a antenna up on the Bell Road Tower, which would give cellular coverage to a good part of the middle of Cornwall Village, going up over the hill into parts of Cornwall Bridge, Route 7. So that may take out a bit of a black spot in the middle of town. So that I'll get more details about that. I'll need to follow up. So that's progressing. Again, emergency services, we've been relying heavily on volunteers, training, personal protection, and responding with new gear to COVID and non-COVID likely calls. And again, a lot of time has been put in, but I think our emergency services has done a good job meeting the challenges with all this. The bridge project should be starting up in July, and as I mentioned, Jim Terrell will be submitting some proposals on renovating the transfer station office and redoing the heating system in the town office, and doing maybe some roofs that do a roof inventory of some of the town buildings. So again, I think we'll look at that, and I will think that's a good suggestion. We'll get I'll get a list from our IT person on our ages of various office computers. Okay, social services, of course, has been working diligently on making sure our community needs are met. I think we probably have the best food delivery service in the region as far as getting food out to people. We've been successful in communicating the need, and townspeople have been very generous in their response. We have been able to increase also some gift cards to people for extra items that for necessities. And again, Heather's done a great job with that, and got a good team working in the food delivery service. So are there any comments on those goals? I mean, there are definitely some accomplishments that we can tick off. There's still some more work to be done. Is there anything to add? We want to stay focused on what we laid out earlier. And again, we don't have to figure everything out now because the world changes quickly, as we know. But any thoughts on just trying to accomplish more of these things, especially the housing and the sewer, the water treatment issue? And then again, we're going to be following the internet proposals, and we'll be working on our keeping up our social service and emergency services.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, I think this has really highlighted how essential these goals are. I mean, had we had more sort of, if we had successfully done more of these things earlier, I feel like a lot of people that are trying to find places to live and places to move their business from, and of course we couldn't predict COVID, but there are tons of people who are now realizing that they can actually work remotely, or they want to move their business out of the city. And so I think that this is the time to really, move Cornwall in the direction to welcome people, and to have, young families move into the area and have kids in our school and businesses flourish. These goals are really appropriate, and I'm excited to work on them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are getting used to working remotely or are not going back to commuting.
Right.
And to me, could be a really good, positive watershed event. But again, we have to make sure our regulations when people want to do things here are positive, are not restrictive, overly restrictive, and that we welcome change and make sure, even though we like our lifestyle here, that we're up to date, that it's not, we can't rent on what happened 30 years ago. So anyway, it's an exciting time. And again, I think there's quite a bit of input and citizen participation on all these things. It's not just our goals, but you can see there's interest in doing this because there are people that are working on these issues too. So anyway, Priscilla,
I'm awake, yes.
what do you think? Do you agree with all that? We'll keep on with our list, and then we get these accomplished. We can, and again, this doesn't have to be the only meeting we talk about this either. We can certainly look at it again in 6 months, or we can look at it again in 2 months or 1 month, or some emergency comes up, we can do it. But I think these goals we set out earlier are still really important.
I think they're very important. And I think one thing that we've done repeatedly over the last few years is to keep our budget in mind, and our mill rate has remained the same. And people like that. And I seem to remember that we're out to pay off the school. And
Correct.
so if we took on a new debt, it wouldn't really be like would end one and another might slide into its place, so that we wouldn't be looking at overtaxing the tax dollars that we require from our residents. I think budgeting is very important.
Right. You can't, yeah. And I think we've got a good process there. And again, we've been pretty prudent on that. And you are correct with the with the school bond about to maturity. So, and again, that was, our school is very important to the town, but I think also the town needs to invest in some other areas now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and it's not just roads and bridges. We have to keep that sort of I look at that as like our day job. Those are our obligations. Keep everybody safe, keep the roads and bridges up. But now you have to almost look at the future. What don't we have? What are the services only a town or a cooperative effort can provide to people? And how do we move it forward so that if people look at Cornwall, there are things that we have, to offer more. We already offer a lot, but again, I think our point too is, we invested in social services a while ago and increased that, and there's some towns in the area that don't have social services agent, and how that's really tough. And again, Heather is concerned because if now there's talk of another stimulus check, but when unemployment compensation comes out and the bills start coming due, it's important you have somebody there that knows all these regulations, knows what's available for people that are having a hard time. And we were lucky to have that. So good. So anyway, we'll stay with those, and we'll keep again, we're dealing with an emergency, but we also want to think in some ways long term. Where do we want to see the towns going? And I think in some ways, as often happens in emergencies, there is a certain feeling of I would say community cooperation is what we see most days at the town office. People coming in asking to volunteer, asking what they can do, giving some money to the food people, looking after each other. In some ways, an emergency time draws people together, and I think we're seeing that. Okay, so those are our goals. Then back to our more day-to-day thing, we did get a proposal. One of the little things we're dealing with is invasive biological plants, and one of the quickest growing ones is Japanese knotweed, which is on some patches on the roadside. There's also some in the town gravel bank. So last year we did treat some of it down at the town gravel bank. There's a licensed arborist applicator, Robert Gambino, who's very well regarded. And he did some spraying down there to knock it back so that when we use gravel out of the gravel bank, we're not just spreading the seeds all over the dirt roads at the same time. So he has a proposal for roughly $1,000 to treat the gravel bank again and to treat an area up on Rattlesnake Road where Debbie Bennett from the Conservation Commission and in the Wetlands Commission, who is also a very skilled botanist, has gotten permission from the abutters to treat it. So I think it'll be interesting to see what difference that can make. Maybe we can keep that section of road in good shape. And then if there are other sections, we can show people what's possible with very controlled chemical application. Well, there it is.
Yep. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris. Yeah. JKW. All right, so there's Bob Gambino. All right, so anyway, is there a motion to approve this proposal by Mr. Gambino?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So I'm not sure. Debbie's at an Inland Wetlands Commission meeting. I'm not sure if she's joined us. I don't know. No, I don't think. Debbie, you out there? No, they're dealing with something else within the wetlands. Okay, great. So now we're back.
I think.
No, I think she's still over there,
Oh.
or she's on another channel. So anyway, I think we're good. So we're back to public comment. Any more public comments? Okay, going once. Any comments from the press? I see we have a heavy press presence today.
Gordon?
Yes.
Excuse me. I wanted to thank, I guess, Jonathan for the paperwork that's we can read during the meeting. That's very helpful. Although the last one was required a bit of speed reading. It was not very long, but that's very helpful, I think, going through the meeting.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate, I hope you will get Steve McDonald to give us a definitive estimate of what it would cost for a couple sites so people can really understand. I think we need real estimates to make intelligent decisions.
Okay. I will convey that to him, and we have talked to the Farnsworths about their bookstore, so I have a good contact with them.
That's great.
So anyway, we'll see what they're up to. I'll talk to Steve. Right.
Also,
Okay.
on the housing issue, I was very pleased to hear that zoning is talking about cutoffs and accessory apartments, because that will spread the affordable housing around town. Because I would like it, I hope that we will not be looking just at Cornwall Bridge as a place to place more affordable housing. I'd like to see it all through our town. I think that'd be much healthier.
I'm with you on that, Joanne.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So anything else? And I do think it is significant that the legislature is picking up these issues, as a critical one for the state of Connecticut. So people are going to work here that have a place to live. So pretty basic stuff. So, all right. So any other public comments? Any hard questions, easy questions from the press? Okay. So then, and again, thanks to Jonathan. He has been great on helping people set up these meetings and keeping the information things going, and working through such things as burn permits, beach passes, and we're doing things. And The other thing is that there is, so people should know, we just installed a absentee ballot drop-off box at the town hall. So if people want to vote absentee, they can do that. And again, we're encouraging people to mail in their tax payments as opposed to try to deliver them in person, because we are trying to, again, restrict people coming to the town hall if we can do it remotely. So, and everybody seems to be getting what they need to get done. We just do it a little differently. Okay, so then I think we're all set. So is motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, take care, everybody. Yep, thank you,
Thank you.
Jonathan. Yep,
Thank you.
bye.
Good night.
Good
Hope
night.
your eye is better, Marina.
You bet.
Sorry, bye.
All right.
Mm.